Okay, so we're now live.
We have one attendee.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's Kirsten. So
Can you
I'm
promote
good.
her?
Yep, and here she comes. Hi, Kirsten.
Oh, hello, how are you?
Good. Oh, we have
Hi,
two more
Kirsten.
attendees. 2 phone numbers here.
All right, you can leave them in the.
Let me check these numbers here, make sure they match up with ones that Chris sent me, or Tony sent.
Oh, Tracy's there.
Oh, yep.
I see Tracy's there, and I don't see Kirsten listed right now.
I'm here, Tony.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick test. I'm going to open up these 2 phone numbers we have just sitting as attendees and just see if this is Commissioners Perry and Tabasco real quick. 1 second. Okay, one of you has been unmuted.
I think I was just told I was.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Hey,
Jerry.
Jerry.
Yeah, it's Jerry.
Promote him.
Okay, and then I just opened this one up. Is this Commissioner Perry?
Yes, this is me.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. John, I'm going to start recording. Oh, it looks like it already was once we went live. Never mind. It has the options just to pause or stop the recording.
Then, yep, you're good to go.
Okay, so we should be good to go, Tony.
All right. Thank you, Joey, John, Scott, Sam, everybody who helped set this meeting up. Our first ever remote EDC meeting. Definitely not the circumstances that we wanted to have this meeting, but what we're doing, as you'll see in this packet, both items are very detailed about things that we're doing in direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the first thing, also I want to mention that because Kirsten's more comfortable with this technology, I asked her to chair the meeting. So I guess I went ahead and already kind of called it to order. And I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call now. So for attendance, Commissioner Erickson,
Here.
Gansey,
Here.
Gutenkopf,
Here.
Commissioner Hughes,
Here.
Tabasco.
Here.
Okay, Laporte said he couldn't participate tonight. Lewinsky,
Here.
Perry,
Here.
and Smadilla.
Here.
Okay, thank you. 8 very dedicated commissioners tonight. We do have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you for taking the roll call, Tony. The first item that we need to get completed is the approval of the March 9th, 2020 meeting notes. Can I have a motion for that?
I motion.
That was
Do we have
Perry.
a second?
I'll second it.
And I think to make it a little bit easier, since we're doing this remotely, when we do a first or a second, please call out which commissioner you are, just to make it a little bit easier for them taking the notes, so they don't have to go so much on our voice recognition.
Okay, Commissioner Tabasco seconds the motion.
Perfect. Thank you, Jerry. And Tony, you have who first it?
Yeah, that was Commissioner Perry.
Okay, perfect. Any public comments that we need to address? I don't think there's anyone extra in the call. Okay, then we'll move on to the update on the business retention action items.
Point of order, Kirsten. This is Tracy Smodilla. We did not do a roll call on the approval of the meeting minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye. Gutenkopf, aye.
Aye.
Perry, aye.
Jerry, aye.
Thank you.
Yancy
Thank you.
abstained. I wasn't there.
And
Who abstained? Is that Gansey?
Yeah, I wasn't there.
And Smodilla
Okay.
abstains.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. And then Tony, there was nobody for public comments, nothing submitted or anything we need to review there?
There was not. No public comment or any, it appears no public logged on to this call tonight.
Okay, fantastic. Then we'll go ahead and we'll move forward to the business retention action items, Tony.
Great. Joey D, if you could hit the click. And I would start this by saying, as you might suspect, so I've been with the Village Economic Development since spring of 05, 15 years ago, and this was most definitely the busiest, not just the busiest, but the most challenging and stressful business retention month that we've had. I wrote sure to be surpassed because April so far is shaping up to be even more so. The Village's economic development team is couched within our administration department, and really even all the stuff that I'm going over tonight doesn't cover everything that we've done, but I can tell you in general that we're all day, every day, our core economic development team does nothing but monitor the situation and participate in calls and respond to inquiries and reach out to businesses. So it's not just, it's me talking now, but it's not just me. It's not just me and Scott. Sam Hughes and Joey, who's organizing this Zoom conference call, reached out immensely, pushing out just a ton of information. We haven't been just working just like tonight. It hasn't been just 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. I know Scott's been on a lot of after-hour calls. I have been, Sam's been, Joey's been. We've worked on this packet over the weekend, trying to get this program together. So we've tried to do our best to reach out to every business in Bartlett. We've made nearly 300 phone calls. We've split up the business list into four. Four of us named in this intro have kind of divided and conquered alphabetically. So I can tell you personally, I've spoken to probably 50 to 60 businesses in the last couple of weeks. We want to let them know that we're concerned for them. We want to do what we can to help them survive this situation, and that the president and the board takes it very seriously and is keeping them in mind, as well as us staff. So Joey, hit the forward, please. Some of the things that we did, as you all know, I'm sure you all follow this very, very closely. And the first restaurants that were hit really swiftly and hard and suddenly were the restaurants. So if you recall, it seems like a year ago, but it was maybe 3 weeks ago when all the first programs that were being rolled out, particularly by the state, was different programs to assist restaurants and hospitality. We don't have hotels, but we participated. I was on several calls, probably 2 or 3, about the Emergency Hospitality Grant Program. This is what we first started pushing out to all the restaurants in town, trying to make sure every single one of them was aware of it. Most of them were aware of it already, but you'd be surprised. There were people who were so busy trying to run their little business and not really following everything that some of them didn't know about the different programs, and they all had due dates also. So we wanted to make sure they kept the due dates in mind so they wouldn't procrastinate and let it pass. So we kind of began last month by really promoting the carry-out, delivery, curbside pickup options. For those of you who follow the page that we do on Facebook, Discover Bartlett, almost all the posts in March were about the various businesses. What's O'Hare's doing? What's Pasta Mia doing? What's The Still doing? What's Emily's Tacos doing? We were pushing that out quite a bit. I mentioned these webinars because, and also I want to stop and thank some of you on the EDC and also people from other organizations and groups that we work with who alert us to these. You can be sure between the four of us, I think we're on every single email organization from the state, from various health departments, from the counties, for sure the SBA, DCEO, Choose DuPage. I could go on and on and on. Sam asked us to list out the different webinars we'd been on, and I think just from my notes I had like 9 or 10 of them. So, but I do want to mention again, as you all know, this thing is changing so rapidly. By the time we hear something today, it'll be different by Wednesday. So we keep registering for these because things change very rapidly, and we don't want to be sending information from last week even. So we want to make sure we're all staying on top of it. And Joey, if you would be so kind. So these e-blasts, Joey's really the man on these. When I mention, the various programs that are coming out from the various counties, from the Small Business Administration, from DCEO. I think today we sent out something from Choose DuPage. The next day we sent something out from Cook County. So we've been sending out these business retention e-blasts really about every day, sometimes twice per day. And you're all on our list, and you should be seeing these. And any of the businesses that we called when we were alerting them to the village hosting our own webinar with the SBA that I'll get to, we gathered more of their emails. Some of them hadn't given us current emails or whatever the case may be. We're trying to make it really easy to contact all the businesses in one fell swoop. And we're getting, I don't know if it's in the next slide, but a really good open rate, really good participation in this. And every time it goes out, we generate a few questions. So you can see Joey put in some thumbnails of one that came from the mayor and one that came from the restaurant map that we put together, something about the SBA loans. And we're just constantly getting the latest information that we have in front of all of our businesses.
Have you heard of any businesses that received the hospitality grant or got the EIDL grant?
That's Commissioner Smedilla, correct?
Gansey.
Oh, Gansey, I'm sorry. We haven't heard of any yet, but I have, I can't speak for everybody. All the restaurants I've spoken to since that due date, they've all the ones I've spoken to, except for maybe one or two, believe it or not, who were doing okay, had applied for that, and they were waiting. The hospitality grant became somewhat of like a lottery system.
Yeah.
And they're all basically waiting to hear if they made it. I don't want to say every restaurant in the state applied for this, but a large majority of them did.
Because I've heard of a few not in Bartlett that have been turned down, that they didn't get it because of the lottery. And then just where I work, we haven't heard of anyone that's actually received the EIDL grant money yet, even though it said like it was going to be quick. So
right. I mean, I've heard the same thing you have. Everybody's still waiting. I don't want to jump ahead to the next one yet, but we're looking to roll out something from the village that's going to hopefully make up for some of that. But the upshot of it is no, even as recently as today, a restaurant I spoke with said, oh, still waiting to hear back from that one. but a lot of them are applying for 2 or 3 things, so
Uh-huh.
they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So a few more bullet points. Again, this came from a really long report that we put together, you know, of what our efforts are. Scott and myself, when the state order first came out and there was a very clear list of businesses that are deemed essential or not, I, in general, just like with zoning, I'm not a huge fan of these prescriptive lists a lot of times because if, you know, every kind of business doesn't kind of neatly fit into a box all the time. But they did come out with a pretty specific list. And I think those calls have been coming in mostly to Scott and myself. And we simply referred exactly to the list that the governor put out. And we've had the fortunate experience of telling some of them that their business wasn't listed as essential. So some of them, the ones that really come into contact with people, like massage type businesses and hair type businesses, for example, we had to tell a few to close. For those of them that are open, but not, we didn't order these for every business, but again, point 2 is we are open signs from a local business. Mark your space. If you're driving around town, you'll probably see one in the window or 2 of businesses in every strip center that has restaurants. We just did that. That was an idea staff had to just kind of help let people driving by or somebody maybe going to another business in the strip center to know that these restaurants are open. Some of them look kind of darker than usual. There's no life outside. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes if they're open or not. So we started with 25, but got such nice feedback and requests for more of them that I have another 25 on delivery tomorrow that we'll be distributing.
Is the general public aware of this?
Well, no, not the signs per se, but the whole point of the signs is to alert the general public.
Okay, well,
for instance,
I'm asking because, this is Jerry, I'm asking
Sure.
because I've driven by a couple of places and I've noticed those signs, and I didn't know if they were put up by the establishments themselves or what was going on.
No, we haven't. You know, that's something we could probably, yeah, we could promote that. That's not something yet that we put out. I guess right now, you know, we're alerting the EDC that we've done it. But more importantly, the businesses know. Every single one I delivered it to was grateful. And then the other businesses in the strip center, that's how we've generated the requests for more of them. Somebody will ask, Joey put a picture of Emily's tacos there, and you know, another business in that center. I'm trying to remember the name. The computer repair techies. They saw it in the window and they called and requested one. So the businesses, the public might not know that we provided those, but the businesses do.
Okay. I had a little concern when I drove by. I didn't. I saw the sign. I didn't know what it was all about, and you know, if the general public doesn't know, I'm not sure they're going to stop in and ask. You know.
They're not
Well, we're
supposed to be staying home.
right. Most of them are staying home, first of all, and then
Yeah.
we're less concerned with the public knowing that we provided them to just kind of gaining their attention.
Well,
You know, the whole reason we got them was to attract the attention.
Hey,
Okay.
this is Adam. I think, I don't want to put words in Jerry's mouth, but maybe the point is that we put, and it's a little too late for this now, but if you put Village of Bartlett on it, it almost implies that it's approved to be open and gives people the comfort of, you know, knowing that not only are they open, they're an essential business that's allowed to be open. That's
Right. we do have the Bartlett logo. Our village administrator wanted our logo added to it. So we do, you can't really see it in this picture, but there is a logo on it.
Okay, great.
Yep. Okay, I'll move on. You know, it's not just businesses. You know, mostly we're focusing on small businesses. I would say the general overview of this whole meeting is going to be that we're focusing on small businesses. But I've also been receiving some calls from landlords, and we're trying to help them as well in terms of connecting with some of the programs that are there. Really, for the landlords, some of the programs are more kind of tax related, like in the IRS, and maybe ways that they can, you know, work with some of their tenants. I can tell you, again, just in a very broad generalization, that my 3 or 4 conversations with landlords have been just urging them very strongly to work with their tenants as well as they can. None of us can just tell somebody, let somebody slide for a month or 2, but we remind them a few things that, you know, one of the things is that, you know, any spaces that go vacant might be that much harder to fill. Of course, the tenants are doing the best they can, and some of them are waiting, hopefully, for some of these grant programs or loans to be able to come up with the rent. So, of course, we understand, all of us understand that some of them are highly leveraged shopping center owners, and they have also lenders breathing down their neck. But, you know, one of the reasons we focus on the small businesses is because they're like the first domino in the set. We don't want them to suffer, thus causing the landlords to suffer, thus causing foreclosures and bank issues again. So we're kind of focusing for now on the small business. It's been 1 month, but going on the 2nd month now. But I just wanted to point out that we're doing our best to urge the landlords to cut their tenants whatever slack they're able to. And honestly, most of them understand that, and they've been doing whatever they can. They've been giving people leeway to pay late or in increments, or to start assuming some debt for future months. So I wanted to make that point. And then the last point on this slide is that also I know Nan is on the call, and 2 of them were in, you know, I think in late March we had a call with the chamber, just talking about the Chamber of Commerce and the village working in tandem in terms of sharing information. And we've been doing that throughout. And also I wanted to mention that last week the chamber was part of a multi-chamber conference call with an SBA, or representative of the SBA. It was very informative and interesting. So, you know, the chamber's working hard through all this. Nan, I don't know if you want to speak to that for a minute.
Just that I have been on an incredible amount of webinars in the last couple of weeks. We offered many different presentations to our members. I'm actually working with quite a few of the local chambers. We thought it would best if we worked together instead of inundating all of the local officials and different resources, that if we each took one maybe that we had a good relationship with or something and kind of worked as a group, that it would be better, because of course all those places are so busy. Everybody has questions, everybody wants something. So we're finding that working together seems to be the best for our members.
Yes, well said, and amen to that. You've been doing a great job with that, absolutely.
So I add webinars daily, and I've got some sitting here that I haven't even been able to put up yet. So we just trying to get as much information as we can. Again, calling all of our businesses, just same as you have been doing, letting them know we're here. What can we do to help you? How can we support you? We have, really promoted our Facebook page. Please put any information you have, and then we'll pass that along to Discover Bartlett. We also have a members page that, talk amongst yourselves, promote yourself. So just basically doing the same thing, just making sure that they know that we're there, and we are working with the villages, trying to help them in any way that we can.
Thank you for sharing that, Nan. This last slide has many bullet points, and again, it kind of reiterates a lot of the things we've been doing with the e-blasts. You can see we've had an open rate of over 40%. We've been following all the county, state, federal press briefings daily, so we can keep everybody abreast of the latest news. Also, one of the ones in a couple of the ones in bold. Joey designed a full-page Shop Local ad that you see on the left. If you're looking at the slide, we ran a full-page ad in the Bartlett Examiner, and we included this on a lot of e-blasts. For those of you who are on LinkedIn with some of us, you've seen us pushing it on LinkedIn as well. Jumping to the middle of this, another bold bullet point. I know some of you were on this call because so many people were getting so confused. Now, the alphabet of economic development, DCEO, SBA, TIF, BETA, that's all stuff, ICSC. That's the world that I'm used to. But for a lot of the businesses, they hear all these acronyms and names, and it gets kind of confusing. And a lot of businesses were asking us to try to clarify. I know some of them were asking Scott to clarify what's going on with the SBA. So a couple of Fridays ago, the SBA contact that I've had for my entire decade and a half with the village, Don Pellico, was gracious enough to host a Bartlett. This wasn't one of these webinars that they do where anybody can dial into it. We just did one for Bartlett businesses only. I think we had about 60 businesses on the call. A lot of questions came in to myself and other staff afterwards, and we got them answered in really short order. Don Pellico, I want to mention, he's not on this call, but kind of give him a shout out because when people are really confused about the PPP program or some other SBA thing that's going on, and they send me a question that I can't answer, I just hit the forward button to Donald, and usually within, 10, 15, 20 minutes, we have our answer. So again, a big thank you to Donald Pellico. And then on the bottom of this page, we've also, I should mention, our community relations coordinator is Gaby Infusino, and she's helped with all these website updates. We created a website page. Here it is. Thank you, Joey. A new page, and when we get new information, like you see the SBA loans, economic injury, disaster loans, etc., when we get something new like that, we're adding it to this page. So Gaby's been working with us and helping us with that. We get so many questions on the CARES Act, so we got a nice guide to it for small business owners. So again, if any of you on the EDC or Nan on her chamber function, is asked for specific questions, either send it to us, myself or Scott or Joey, or direct somebody to this page where we try to provide a lot of the answers.
You're at the top of our list on our webpage for resources is the Village of Bartlett. So you're number one.
I saw that. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm really a true heartfelt thank you for that, because a few of them have called me and said that they've looked at the chamber and it said, it's good, because they don't always get the latest information, and people react to what they're seeing in their social media feeds and stuff like that. So we want to give them a nice page where we can provide the most accurate and up-to-date information that we can. Are there more slides on this, Joey?
Yes, there are some more slides, but that's it for the
okay.
retention.
I'm sorry? That's the business retention one? Okay.
Correct.
All right. So that's, again, I just want to recap, and I did a lot of talking there. My colleagues can add onto that. But that really hits all the highlights of what we've been doing. I know some of them are just in a bullet point that I said in like a minute, but these e-blasts that we put together take hours. The website took hours to put together. Calling all these businesses took many hours, but we know that so much has happened.
Tony?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
Yep.
hours. Honestly, I would say days and quite frankly, weeks. Tony in particular, we've been on a lot of phone calls at night and on the weekends, talking to several businesses that have contacted us. That's certainly not to pat ourselves on the back, because that is not why we're here. That's not why we do this. We get paid. But I think I just kind of wanted to piggyback on what Tony said, and Joey and Sam and the whole staff have really been working all day and a lot of nights and so forth.
Thank you, Scott. If there aren't more questions on all the business retention that we've been doing, and if everybody's ready, we're going to launch into what we're going to call the Small Business Emergency Relief Grant Program. Commissioner Erickson, shall I proceed?
Yes, Tony, sorry, I was trying to get my phone off of mute while you were transitioning.
That's okay. So again, I don't want to recap all that I just went over. That was kind of the beginning of this. So Joey, if you could move on to the next slide. So again, we've been working on putting together a program. Okay. One of the commissioners, I think Gansey, brought up, if anybody we've spoken with has been successful in getting one of these grants or loans. And, as we speak with the businesses over the coming weeks and months, I'm sure we'll find out if they have, and we're very hopeful that many of them will. But in the meantime, Mayor Wallace and the board, our senior staff, we all felt like we had to do something that would be more under the village's purview and control, and something that we could roll out in relative short order. So again, the reason this packet and item just went out today is because we were working on it pretty much the last 3 days of last week. Worked on it a little bit Saturday. Didn't work on it so much Easter Sunday as the past days, but first thing Monday morning, bright and early today, we were emailing back and forth on this. So I want to let you know that's, number one, the reason that's the latest you've ever had your packet, and number two, all these bullet points of this program were not just things that I typed up this morning. So, and we're going to call it, it's a one-time program, Small Business Emergency Relief Grant Program, with a goal of being as inclusive as we can and supporting small businesses during this crisis. We're going to be presenting it. Our goal is to get it, some input from the EDC, an endorsement, and then present it to the village board next week. So if you would move on to the next slide. So the way I wrote this up is the final details remain a work in progress, but the high-level parameters are here. We're not going to change this dramatically. We just want you to be cognizant that there's a chance that something will be tweaked or amended, although we've already tweaked and amended things probably a dozen times or so. Scott and myself have been working on this with Paula Schumacher, the administrator. We've worked on it with our finance director, Todd Dowden, and we've been working on it. It's something, like I said, the mayor has a strong interest in bringing this to the board as soon as possible. so I'm just going to start going over some bullet points. This program would be specifically for sales tax producing businesses only. And we continued we tried to figure out, I should backtrack and say that the Village of Wilmette was the first town in the state to roll out something like this. So we're loosely basing it on Wilmette's program, but kind of tweaking it. Like, for instance, theirs goes from 50,000 to 7.5 million, but they have some big shopping centers with big businesses. So we felt we would limit it at $2 million. That's also keeping in mind that we're looking to work within a strict budget parameter. So what we're looking to do is to assist these sales tax producing businesses that have experienced a dramatic loss in their sales. Keep in mind, we only control the village portion, the sales tax. We can't make up for people not buying food or clothes or bicycles or something like that. But we do have an amount that the village collects from every sale. So we're just talking about the village portion. We're making this program also so franchise businesses and others with more than 4 units. And 4 units is a big number because we have more than 4, I should say, because while I was doing this research, I found Taylor Street Pizza has 4 units. I found there's a Chinese restaurant whose name I'm forgetting right now, has 4 units. We have a number of businesses with 3, like Two Toots. So we want to keep this at 4 units and under. Home-based businesses are not eligible. Even if they do have sales tax producing, there's a lot of Mary Kay type businesses in the town that pay sales tax, but those would not be eligible. They have to have a commercial location. This goes without saying, but I'll mention they have to have a valid business license. They can't apply if they didn't renew or apply for a business license. This is an important bullet point. They must not have ceased operations permanently. It's not for making up money for somebody who closed and isn't going to reopen, but there's a number of businesses that have temporarily closed. Tokyo Steakhouse is one example, and those businesses are eligible to apply as long as in the application we're going to have some language basically verifying that they're going to reopen. And I'll get to that later, but they have to have some personal guarantees as well. The businesses must have verifiable sales losses. We're going back to the date of March 17th. Again, I can tell you we've all spoken with many businesses, and some of their sales, I hate to say, have gone closer to 0. Not all. Some of them are doing okay. Others are kind of hanging in there, but there's some that have really fallen off dramatically. And we're going to have them verify that they've lost sales, and we will verify that ourselves with the sales tax reports. Thanks, Joey. I see that arrow button. Go ahead. So that was broken into 2 bullet points, but the grant amount's going to be based upon the business's lost sales from March 17th through the date of application in comparison to last year. So let's say last year from March 17th through May 17th or whatever the date is, you generated $10,000 worth of sales tax. But this year it got cut in half to $5,000. We're going to be working off of that $5,000 loss. And the way we have formulated, this is really, it's in bold because we went back and forth on this quite a few times, was that it's our intention that the maximum that we would return would be 25% of last year's sales tax payments, but capped at a maximum of $10,000. And I'm just going to say that one more time. We would return a maximum of 25%. That would be if somebody lost all sales for 3 months, obviously, and to a maximum of 10,000. So if you lost 15,000, 12,000, 20,000 compared to last year, we simply do not have enough money budgeted to make up for that. So we were talking about what the due date would be, but we've left that now for the village board to determine next Tuesday, because quite frankly, we don't all know exactly when this is going to end. And I had put a date on there, but the date is subject for board discussion next week. I mentioned this, that this is like a new business retention, business assistance program, but we have to work with public funds. So mostly on Friday, I was mostly working with the finance director, tweaking that percentage, that 25, tweaking the maximum amount. And I can tell you, you know, it was quite a few iterations before we came up with that. So we're working with the finance director. The village attorney we'll be working with next. I've created my own language, basically mimicking Wilmette's, to try to put some personal guarantees on this, to have people submit their tax forms, not just tell us how much they lost, but you can be sure that Brian Mraz, our village attorney, will dot all our legal I's and cross all our legal T's. So we're not giving somebody $10,000 that then takes the money and runs. You know, we want to have some way to ensure that there's no fraud with this program, and also that in cases where somebody doesn't reopen or doesn't, you know, maybe utilizes the funds illegally, we want to make sure that we cover ourselves. And I just said what the last point is. Unlike the beta applications and the TIF rebates that we used to do, we're having the application. I've been working on an application, and signing it gives the village authority to enter into state tax records, pursue bank records, and stuff like that. So I think that's a real key point on this. Is there another slide after this one, Joey, or is that one it? Okay, and I kind of mentioned this in the intro. I know this is a lot to take in, that just a month ago we were talking about making the beta program more inclusive and flexible so we could do more beta grants, and here we are 4 weeks later talking about a totally different program that, quite frankly, is going to be funded with money that we were otherwise going to utilize for beta grants. We're still working towards setting aside some funds for beta, because we have, like we said last month, we have businesses that we've been working on recruiting for months. I got a beta application today. I mean, so there are still businesses out there that are going to pursue what we're not going to call the traditional beta grants. Oh, my computer just, oh, there it is. But we want to roll this out quickly. This is something we want to get in people's hands and their bank accounts before they get an SBA loan, before they get one from their bank, before they get PPP. We don't know if we'll be able to do that, but maybe with the Village Small Business Program grant, together with some other grants, we can help some of these businesses survive this. We don't want to spend the next 2, 3, 4 years talking about trying to just fill a bunch of empty spaces that all emptied out suddenly this spring and summer. We want to roll this out fairly quickly. And I know I just spoke for 12 minutes straight about this program. And Scott and I will try to answer any questions you have or thoughts on it.
Thank you, Tony, for that. Does anyone have any additional questions that they'd like to ask Scott or Tony about the program?
Yes, this is Commissioner Gansey.
Yes.
So it sounds like once you roll it out, I guess some of the complaints I've heard with the other programs or some of the things that happened with the communication where people kind of got a little panic, like they had to, apply right away. Like, is there like a limit on how much is available, or if every business that's eligible applies, will there be any that get left out?
That is a really great question. I can tell you it's kind of a two-part answer. When we were originally talking about doing this, we were talking about individual applications and processing them almost similar to BETA, but we're not going to do that. I think the way the board wants to do it is to set the parameters and then to make them almost like, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but to where many of them can be approved by the board all at once. In terms of the money and the panic, we don't want to create any of that. When, Joey, could you backtrack to the one that says 25% and 10,000? I think it's there you go. So what I mentioned, I'm not going to go through all of them, but we played around with different amounts, and it's on you don't have to go back again, Joey, but how I had mentioned the businesses between 50,000 and 2 million in sales, if every single one of them applied for this, that would be within our budget for the program. We know that every one of them is not going to apply. And so the way Scott would phrase it, assistant administrator, our maximum exposure for the program would allow for anybody who falls within those parameters to get one. And I'm not going to start talking tonight because about the sales tax generated by every business, but we obtain that list, and that's how we work kind of backwards from there.
And
so,
Stephanie, oh, sorry, Tony, I thought you were done.
No, that's it. So I think the answer is yes, everybody could apply and get it.
The major difference between our program and the programs that you referred to is that our website's not going to crash. You're not going to get bounced around. You're not going to have a busy signal. You're going to be able to speak to a human being, Tony, myself, or anybody else on staff, and we'll walk every single business that calls us. We will walk and talk them through the process. So in terms of getting left behind or being confused by the program or not being able to get onto your website or having to delete cookies, you won't have to do that with us. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Scott.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I almost misunderstood the question. Yeah, we're it's Scott and myself and Todd, the finance director. We're going to be the go-to people on it.
Right. Yeah, that's great to hear because just like keeping our village brand in mind, I've seen some other business owners kind of bash the SBA, like when they weren't part of the lottery. So just kind of try to think ahead, like if that's the case, I feel like it's good to let business owners know. So it's such a great program, and it's great that you guys thought of this and did the research for it.
Yeah, it's very well put together.
Yeah. I'm sorry, who was speaking?
That was me, Commissioner Erickson. It's very well put together. It's very detailed. I like that, there was another village who had thought of it, so we had kind of a template to look at it. And I'm sure that, by the time it gets to Brian, he's really going to be making sure that we've got everything buttoned up on it. But I think just the fact that there's something this quick in front of us that can make a difference to the businesses is just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like what Scott said. We've been working on it a lot, and it's important to us. It's not, as economic development commissioners who spend month after month and for years strategizing with us, really Scott always talks about the momentum we've been building, and it kills us. And just to think how just in January or February, we were telling you about how we had the lowest vacancy rate down to like 7% that we've been working on for years with the 2016 to 2020 marketing plan. And none of us want to jeopardize all the momentum and hard work that we've all done just to have it unravel in a matter of months. So this is really like the ultimate, think of it as the ultimate small business retention program. And we literally, you know, tried to come up with it in a matter of days, really.
I think it proves once again what a top-notch village Bartlett is. Down the line, when you're trying to bring businesses in, that you can show them in a time of need that you stepped up right away and were able to help your businesses. I think as a Chamber of Commerce, I'm proud to represent this village.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's such a nice comment. Thank you.
So Tony,
Hi,
are you
Tony.
looking? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, it sounded like somebody had a question, so go ahead and ask that question.
Yes, I do have a question. First, I want to congratulate Tony and Scott and everybody for putting together this program for our businesses. But I do have a question in regards to something that you said. You mentioned the fact that the businesses will apply for the money. They'll get so much money, and you says, now what would happen if they went out of business? How and what would be done with the money? Or do we have a chance to get the money back at that point, or how is it going to work?
All those details have not been finalized, but I can tell you in general that for the application that I've been working on, and we didn't bring the application tonight because it includes all these bullet points, but then there's a whole legal aspect to it and somewhat of kind of like a disclaimer and then an acknowledgement that you have to sign. And I can tell you that part of it is seeking out some type of personal guarantee on it. I know that chasing down somebody who possibly goes bankrupt, somebody who possibly goes out of business, there's not always something that there's there to recoup. But keep in mind, you know, the vast majority of these applications are going to be from businesses that remain open, first and foremost, and others that, you know, are maybe just temporarily closed. So, you know, what we can do to recoup it, I mean, just if they stay open for some period of time right there, we recognize that every business doesn't permanently stay open. But again, the maximum on this is 10,000. There's only a few businesses that are in the, say, 9,000 range and 8,000. Most of them are 5,000, 4,000. And those are the ones we're trying to get the money into so they can pay rent, you know. So that's kind of a difficult question, but we're going to try to build into it some form of guarantee or ability for the village to go back and attempt to recoup some funds if necessary. We hope it doesn't come down to that.
So that's good. You're looking forward to people who, for no fault of their own, do go out of business. You are thinking about what to do in that situation. So you're looking forward to any problems that could come about, which is a good thing.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good way to put it. It's somewhat of the village stimulus program, true, because some of it will be, I don't want to say that it's just automatic, but we've looked at the numbers. So remember, when we talk about making up a percentage of it, so the higher a business's sales are in general, the higher type of, the higher the amount of their grant would be. And a lot, I mean, 2 million is a lot of sales. A lot of these businesses are at half that or a quarter of that. So you're talking about a few $1,000s, and we're not putting up, it's not like the payroll protection program. We're just trying to get some working money into their budget. So if they use it for rent, utilities, whatever the case may be, the board can always I suppose, put some restrictions on it. But we're just looking for it to be kind of a stimulus check in their bank accounts as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Does anyone have any more questions for Tony or Scott in regards to this? So Tony, you are looking for a formal endorsement from the EDC in regards to the Small Business Emergency Relief Grant Program?
Yes, we are. And as I mentioned, we're aiming to do as quick a turnaround on this as we can for the board. Their next meeting is a week from tomorrow. So yes, I can, once there's no more questions, I could go through and do a roll call vote if you want.
I think that would be good. Is there any final questions or any clarifications anyone would like to get from Tony or Scott?
No, I think Tony's done a good job explaining it.
Yeah, I think they've done a fantastic job. All right, Tony, I think that we're ready to go ahead.
Okay, I think it would still,
Motion.
as Commissioner Smedilla pointed out, still a motion
Yes.
and a second.
Yes. Is anyone ready to make a motion to go ahead and recommend this move forward to the village board?
Yes.
I'm Bob Perry, I motion.
Okay, Bob Perry
Gordon
first.
Second.
Fantastic. Tony, can you do roll call?
Yes, Adam Lewinsky.
I guess.
Okay. Nan Gutenkopf.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Michelle Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Tracy Smedilla.
Yes.
Commissioner Stephanie Ganzi.
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Cabasco.
Yes.
Commissioner Bob Perry.
Yes.
Oh, did I get you right, Perry? And then I'll go with Commissioner Kirsten Erickson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The motion carried, and I want to thank you all in general. This is one of the oddest meetings we've had, I guess. Well, the oddest. And it just really shows your dedication to come onto a remote call tonight to talk about Bartlett small business and a new program. So thank you.
I guess that's part of the new normal that we live with, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's making me looking forward to getting back to Village Hall more often.
Exactly. Does anyone have any new business that they'd like to bring up?
I wonder if Tony has anything new in the Bartlett area that he wants to talk about.
You know what? I didn't prepare anything, but I do want to generally tell you that I even have a conference call tomorrow afternoon with a developer. I honestly thought I wouldn't get one call or email for new development for weeks, but that hasn't been the case. I kind of mentioned in passing a quick service restaurant that I'd been working with for a number of months, still keeping in contact. The two apartment development projects, one for downtown and one for 59 and Lake. We're still getting calls. I got a BETA grant application today for somebody who wants to building out a coffee shop inside Banbury Fair. So there's still business going on. I don't have the bullet points tonight to go over, but even in the months to come, I have a feeling that we'll be talking about some, ongoing new businesses and investment in the coming months. So there's, besides all the business retention that we're focusing on now, there still is going to be some new business coming to town, hopefully this year.
Well, I'm glad I asked you that because it sounds upbeat. Sounds like there's people out there that are still interested in coming to see what Bartlett has to offer in the village. and that looks promising for the future.
It does, yes. Thank you for the question and that comment.
You're welcome.
Is there anything further?
This is Commissioner Hughes. I just have a quick question regarding Moore. Have we heard anything from them as far as trying to pull out of the deal? Are they still moving forward? Have we heard from them at all?
I probably haven't spoken to them in about 5 or 6 days. They are still planning on it. Last time I spoke to them, they have spent money on the project. They haven't closed yet, but to be honest with you, I mean, who knows how long this is going to last? They haven't given me any reason to say they're not coming, so we continue to be hopeful, and I think they're going to do it. They live in Bartlett. You know, people in Bartlett and the residents and even you find folks in the commission, you know, just got introduced to the idea of Moore. Probably hasn't been quite a year yet, but Tony and I first met him in 2017. So we've had a relationship with them for several years now, and we continue to keep in touch, but we're trying not to bother them too much right now. They're going through their own troubles, but they do curbside pickup with gloves and masks. So please, if you know anybody that likes to drink beer, spend some money on their facility in Huntley or Villa Park and help support them so they can continue to have some level of cash flow and build in Bartlett hopefully later this year.
I can say my son supports them regularly, like once a week in Villa Park.
Good.
No, we feel strongly, but you know, we'll keep pushing, but not too hard. We're trying to talk to everybody, you know, pretty softly and be sensitive to everyone's needs. You know, a couple months ago we were pushing them, but you know, they know we're there for them. We've shared in a lot of the informational campaign that you see, we haven't just given this information to our current business operators. We've also given this information to businesses that we hope that are continuing to come to Bartlett, not just Moore Brewing.
And then just to piggyback on that, what about, you know, the other businesses that were scheduled to open in this time period, tequila, whatever,
yeah,
and the other karaoke bar in the downtown?
I'll be honest
Thank
with you, both those operations are pretty much have passed all their inspections. They're fully built out. Both of those locations are actually stunning and beautiful and ready to go. And I'm actually relieved, as much as we were pushing them to get open and frustrating on how long it was taking them to get open, I'm kind of relieved that they didn't open for a grand opening, only to then have inventory, personnel, bills, and then have to shut down, because I think that would have hurt them a lot more. But right. I would imagine that they'll both be ready to go once this whole crazy thing is done, because they both own their buildings, so they're not tenants. Both of them own those businesses and the buildings, so I can't see any reason why they would back out now. I don't think they really have the choice. So we'll be excited for them to open once we can get past this.
How did we say anything about the Bartlett tap? Did that change hands?
That has not changed hands. Okay. The former owner of the business is not operating it anymore, as you know, of course. Right. But we continue to communicate with the owner, as well as as well as interested parties. To be honest, that's kind of slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah.
But we still have those contacts, and you know, we'll continue to touch base with them. If that answers your question.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure, because I remember in one post that he had, it made it sound like there was another operator. So that's just what I was asking.
Yeah, I know this is hard to believe, but not everything posted on social media is true. And
Come on, Scott.
Yeah,
I know that's hard to believe.
I pretty much figured that. It just was.
Yeah, but you know what? And I won't knock the former owner, because quite frankly, he invested a lot of money in that infrastructure. So when we get past this this virus and people are starting to dine out again, we have a building with an upgraded cooler system, upgraded ADA compliance, upgraded fire suppression, and we would not have had that if it weren't for him. So I don't want to knock the former owner too much, because he did invest a lot of his money in Bartlett, and that investment will stay with Bartlett.
And
Anything further?
And when more finally opens, Scott, are you going to hang a big sign that says, "I told you so"?
I
We should.
sure hope so. I sure hope so.
Yeah.
If it's not, I'll probably look at somewhere else to work.
Does anyone else have anything further? If not, do we want to go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Goodenkoffel, second.
All in favor?
Perry, I second.
Okay. We've got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for attending tonight.
Thank
Stay
you.
Thank you, Tony, for
Thank
doing
you.
a good job.
Good work.
Thank you. Stay safe.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.